Before we kick off, just a few words about this particular episode. Today's guest is a busy, hard-to-pin-down dude. Man, he's global. He's massively in demand, and we couldn't wait until he was in our town to get him in the studio. So we did this one via video link with him at his home in Torquay, and we obviously didn't have much control over the line quality, not to mention the beautiful sounds of his kids knocking about in the house, but it certainly didn't make any difference to the top-quality interview. So with that in mind, let's get into it. The Pod Barber. Coming up on today's show.
The guy from a local wholesale and education place come to me and said, I'd love you to do some education. I've been seeing all the stuff you've been putting out there. What would you like to do? And so I went to him with saying that I'd love to do the men's hair education. So I was given that gift of opportunity there. And I said yes. And then I spent about 8 months just panicking, not sleeping very well, scared. And it was my dad that sat down with me and said, look, he said, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. If you don't do it and you say don't do it, he won't ever ask you again, but you just move on and carry on. But if you do it and you fail, the worst case scenario is you'll never be asked to do it again. And that's it. It's exactly the same as if you don't do it. But if you do it and you do well, it'll give you opportunities to go on and do all these other things. How right he was. I mean, if I had given in, then I wouldn't be talking to you now. We wouldn't have started a charity. I wouldn't have been to all those amazing places. So he passed that down to me and thankful that he did.
You're listening to the Pod Barber. I'm championing the chat, proving conversation is the cure to better mental health and well-being. Meet my guests from all walks of life, showing vulnerability and sharing wisdom. Sit in on my chats and be part of reality entertainment. Join the Pod Barber tribe. Subscribe, share and like people. Feel the sonic positivity we're pumping right at you. You, my friends, are not alone. Who's next, please? Well, I'll tell you who. My guest today is none other than fellow barber Tom Chapman, driving force behind the Lions Barber Collective charity, global director, award-winning stylist, author of several books. He uses his tongue as a tool to turn the tide against mental health, featured on TED Talks, chalking up millions of views, stars in a documentary titled The £1.7 Million Haircut, not to forget countless press and media appearances. This dude has championed the chat for better mental health awareness. He strives to reduce and prevent suicide in men through his barber talk training. This fella, in my opinion, is the greatest ambassador currently working in my industry, a tremendous talent, and all that he does. Everyone who knows him will know he's a bloody good bloke. I'm so happy to have him here on the show. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, mate. That was a great intro. Probably the best I've ever had. So it was better than BBC 4, the radio the other day. So yeah, it wasn't as poetic as that.
Well, on that note, I do write a noodle, and here's your noodle, mate. Tom Chapman, creative inspiration, soul driven to care. Gorgeous, big, loving dude, a lion, not a bear. See, me and you share a connection, it's true. We create conversations to help other dudes. Mental health is a measurable emotion. Just by talking it through, you can find the magic potion. There's no health without mental health, for richer, for poorer. Invest some time in nature, relax with the flora and fauna. Barbers, cut, style and chat, most important, they're there to listen. Help the client open up thoughts, what they're missing. See, dudes like Tom Chapman build a base to care. Not just some place to get fresh looking hair. See, lions roar loudly, but they can whimper too. Listen to this lion. Maybe he can help you.
That was amazing, mate. Well done. That's really impressive. I think that's the first time I've had a poem written for me.
There's a first for everything, and that's my gift to you. Basically, man, let's kick this off. You're one hell of a busy dude. How are you coping in and around all of what you have to do?
All honesty, I think I really enjoyed lockdown. I really enjoyed the fact that I live by the sea. I have a fantastic view from the flat that I was living in. I was at home with my family. I saw my sons, put them to bed every night. I was able to focus on the charity 24/7 for a whole year and a half, pretty much. It's put the charity in a far better position. And I think now coming out of that lockdown, there's been points of being overwhelmed because I've created a full-time job for myself here at Lions HQ. And now, this week alone, I was in London, went up last Friday, Saturday, radio stuff, Sunday, photo shoot, video shoot all day. Come back to Devon late Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday here at head office. I'm about to go back to London after this, doing a pop-up barbershop in Newbury for the Carnaby Festival with loads of our amazing volunteers. And then I'm back home again, and I'm off again. And so and now there's like that big overwhelm. I think there's a lot of people in a similar situation of like, wow, we've got to do all this. again, this socializing again, learn how to feel comfortable in general public again. And do we do this? Do we do that? What's acceptable? What's not? So I really love what I do. Otherwise I wouldn't do it. And I feel very privileged. But there's moments for everyone, isn't there? And I think we live in a new world where we're all finding our way.
Yeah, I think that sort of discovering what normal might look like is the platform that people have got to step up to, isn't it? And a man like yourself, so busy, you do totally different things from other people, but it will resonate with them. You mentioned being able to be with your family a lot more. There's maybe elements of guilt now that we can go, oh God, I've really enjoyed that, and now I've got to take away from something to apply time to other things. Obviously, the importance of what you do, that's a great driving force. But yeah, someone misses out. Just trying to get that balance, I suppose, isn't it? Let's have a little chat about what initially inspired you to become a barber.
Well, I was going to go to university. I was doing my A-levels, and I used to do my own hair and my mate's hair. I was very much into punk rock, metal, all that kind of stuff. So I used to do mohawks and flat tops and that's what I used to do myself, and self-taught. And my mum suggested it to me. I was going to go to uni and study ancient history and Egyptology. And she said, well, what are you doing that for? What are you going to do with that? I didn't really know. And it was just it's that path, isn't it? You take in the academia, you go from, you'll do it back when I did it. You've got 5 GCSEs, C or above, that you're going to go and do your A-levels. And then if you got predicted grades good enough for A-levels, you're going to go to university. That's what you're supposed to do. That's the win, isn't it? To get onto the next higher education. And it's ingrained in us, because I was on the conveyor belt. And my mum suggested doing hair. It was a bit of a light bulb moment for me, because I do my own hair, I do my mate's hair. I enjoy doing that, but I never considered that as a possible job role. I told my teachers in sixth form, they were all disappointed in me, because I wasn't going to go to uni and do something that's a meaningless degree and never do anything with it when I complete it. And even when I went to Tony and Guy to start off with, and when I went there, even the girls that were working there as apprentices were sort of disappointed in me that I hadn't taken the opportunity to go to uni. They all said that they'd wish they'd worked harder. And I think it's really sad that's the perception we have of the hair industry, that it's something you do if you can't do anything else. I'm just a hairdresser, I'm just a barber. And it was really kind of eye-opening to me, but it's been the best thing I ever did. And I ended up specialised in men's hair, because none of the girls wanted to do blokes' hair. So all the blokes sat in my chair and I used to do my mate's hair, and that kind of became my passion. But it kind of just evolved and naturally became my thing, really, with the men's hair. And here I am today.
You touched on a really good point on the basis that the value as professionals is now changing, because it's so cool to be a barber, and that industry obviously gets a lot of focus where it perhaps didn't. It wasn't even really recognised. I have no qualifications. I've been cutting hair for 20 years. I love it, but I do see the importance to start to establish like that recognition for it. It's fantastic for networking skills, for travel, for creative expression. It's brilliant. It's purposeful. And somebody like yourself, you've had the opportunity then to use other skill sets to tilt how to progress by doing all the things that you do. On your bio, your title, you're a global barber director. I mean, you weren't destined to be just any old barber, were you? You're really driven, man. Tell me a bit about that.
I mean, I think that the barber industry has only really taken off in the last sort of 5 years. I think it's still got a long way to go in professionalism. It's grown in 5 years. It's grown a lot quicker than hairdressing has progressed in the last 5 years, but it's still got a long way to catch up with the hairdressing side of things. I went to Tony and Guy. I was lucky to be taught by a guy called John Moody, a guy called Barry Radford, and a guy called Tim Milam. Tim Milam was part of the Tony and Guy artistic team, worked with them creating TG bedhead products. I had that, and I saw that on the Tony and Guy TV. This is 20 years ago. They had Tony and Guy TV in the stores, and it was showing you shots of them on stage. It was showing you creative images. And I had that realization that you don't have to just work behind a chair there very early on. So it's something that I kind of always aspired to, looking at the things like Hairdressers Journal and all the Creative Head magazine and the more sort of hairdressing side of things, and then picking up the barbering skills and sort of integrating it into that. So that kind of really came about because of my passion from the hairdressing side. And I think the barbering world has been influenced by that now, much more quickly, I'd say, over the last 5 years. But that came about because the reason why I ended up being a global barber director for Kuhn is because I honestly believe anybody can do this. If I can do it, anyone can. I mean, I went out there and I'd taken a photo shoot of a collection I'd created, and I went to their headquarters in Amsterdam, in Holland, where they've got their factory, they've got their labs, they've got their education system. It's absolutely fantastic. And we had a tour around everything. And then on the last night, you had a party, basically, a club. And I spent that time sat with the guys at the bar, the global education manager at the time, the other artistic directors, and just showed them my pictures of my collection and just spoke with them. And my mates were trying to get me to go and dance. And I was like, no, it's fine. I can have a chat with these guys. And I spent that time invested talking to them rather than getting smashed and dancing around. And I still had a good time, don't get me wrong. But that led to the first opportunity. I was invited to come and do the men's hair for the Beauty event, which is their big biannual event. They normally have, I think the last event was like 3,000 people there in the stage or watching the stage. And I went and I was asked to do it, and I got paid expenses. I went there for free. I worked for free took the opportunity. And I just kept in touch with them. And then that was before they even had a men's line. And then they asked me to be involved with the steering group for the men's line products. And then they brought them out. I was asked to be a UK global ambassador. And it just kind of went on. I think it's about being great to work with, never underestimating your actions in the moment, how they affect you further on. And just doing that a little bit more, doing as they ask and just going a bit above and beyond. And I was asked to be a global barber director a couple of years ago, which has led me to do loads of great things, creating the men's education for Kuhn, 1922 James Kuhn, helping develop new products, creating photo shoots for marketing materials. It's in 86 countries worldwide and salons, and education manuals and booklets. It's pretty mind-blowing, really, to think about it. It's something that between that and working with JRL and doing some freelance stuff, it's enabled me. I've been paid to go to places like Brazil, Hawaii, Sydney, Australia, all over the place. And that would never have happened if I'd gone into university doing ancient history and Egyptology. Would have ended up as an extra on Time Team or something.
Although that would be very appealing to some people, and a great watch, mate, especially if you look the way you do. The underlying message is to sort of chase something a little bit better than average there, isn't it? And look at the opportunities. You saw them in front of you, and you, at the end of the day, it's just a good habit to get into.
It's networking, connecting. That's the key to most things. Honestly, it really is. And if you can meet people, impress them, build a relationship with that person, they're more likely to think of you if another opportunity happens. And I don't mean in a false way. I mean, make a genuine relationship with people, build relationships with people, surround yourself with people that you get on with, that you like. And also, you're a product of your environment. So if you want to be a session stylist, or you want to be a millionaire, or you want to be a public speaker, surround yourself with people who do that, and they will elevate you to that level. It makes a really massive difference, the people who we surround ourselves with and who we spend our time with.
Yeah, the positive peer group. If you were giving somebody a toolbox of self-help, that would be very firmly in the toolbox, wouldn't it? Pretty much that becomes advice. Have a bit of confidence in yourself and have a go.
Just take the chance, take the opportunities. I mean, I didn't just walk into being an educator. I got offered to do, the first time I ever had to do this, I was working in my salon in Torquay when I had it. I was doing loads of bits and pieces myself. I was creating the haircut images. My salon was also a studio. We also had live music events in there. It was like a real hub, a creative hub. And I used to do photo shoots all the time. And the guy from a local wholesale and education place come to me and said, I'd love you to do some education. I've been seeing all the stuff you've been putting out there. What would you like to do? And so I went to him with saying that I'd love to do the men's hair education. So I was given that gift of opportunity there. And I said yes. And then I spent about 8 months just panicking, not sleeping very well, scared, panic attacks, anxiety. I actually went on medication because I was thinking, well, what do I know that no one else knows? If I just cut hair, everyone knows how to cut hair. Like you wouldn't be cutting hair in a salon or barbershop if you didn't know how to do it. So I don't know anything better than anyone else. And that was that imposter syndrome or self-doubt or whatever you want to call it. And it was my dad that sat down with me and said, look, he said, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. Grant, this guy, gave me the opportunity. He said, Grant, probably, if you don't do it and you say you don't do it, he won't ever ask you again, but you just move on and carry on. That'll be fine. That'll be it. But if you do it and you fail, the worst case scenario is you'll never be asked to do it again. And that's it. It's exactly the same as if you don't do it. But if you do it and you do well, it'll give you opportunities to go on and do all these other things. How right he was. I mean, if I had stepped out at that moment and given in, then I wouldn't be talking to you now. We wouldn't have started a charity. I wouldn't have been to all those amazing places. And it was actually, my dad went through a similar situation when he was young. He was a footballer. He played in goals and he got offered trials at Charlton and a couple of other places. And he didn't go because he was too scared. And I think it was his biggest regret. So he passed that down to me and thankful that he did.
So wise, isn't it? Your dad's lived experience to encourage you to make your own decision, because I think we spend so much time as individuals like viewing the story that hasn't happened, don't we? And we to kick back and take yourself out and think, right, actually, what's the worst that can happen? You can't fail if you try, because it's going to lead you somewhere anyway. But if you double down on your failures, you increase the chances of success as well. And look how many people have benefited because of that one move. Off the back of it, you changed your direction. It's simple, man, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is. Every failure is a step towards success, isn't it? Those people out there who are the most successful in the world have failed the most. And it's our internal monologue, our internal voice is who we listen to it the most. We worry about what other people think. We worry about what other people might think. We make up things. We tell ourselves stories. I actually did some work a while ago with, I did a thing on stage with Ramesh Ranganathan, and he put it so brilliantly. He called it his inner bastard. He said, he did his things. He said, even he does it. And you have this, I did a stand up. He comes off stage, everyone's cheering. He goes, "Oh, I can't believe you said that, Ramesh. I can't believe you." And we do. We have that inner bastard that just beats us down. Unfortunately, we listen to our inner voice probably more than we listen to any other person in our life. And it's actually probably far meaner than anyone else as well.
Like the self-critique, the doubt. It's about giving more volume to the positive voice, isn't it? And building that up and recording a few messages and putting that on autoplay for a while. Go on a loop. Like, you can do this. You've got this. That encouragement that you get from, your mates spotting you in the gym to, your colleagues saying, yeah, no, you can get to the next stage, or your friends at school. Don't be defeated by you, because it's only you that can defeat you, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Yeah. I mean, I've done a lot of work in different places. I think the difference between going to America and you talk to the people out there, they celebrate one another. They celebrate you. They want to know about your success and they think it's brilliant. Whereas over here in the UK, we're very good at just taking the piss out of each other and bringing people down, or, for whatever reason, it just seems to be within our nature. And that's what and it's a sort of eye-opening that go to America and they want to know your story and they think it's amazing. And they'll tell you their story and they won't be ashamed. And I think that's so refreshing. I think we could take a lot from that. I think just celebrating other people's success and celebrating other people's wins, it's so much more healthier than being bitter or putting them down or being jealous. And I think we live in a world where comparison is every way you look now. Everyone's done a better haircut than you, or done a better this, or I've got a better job, I've got a better car, I've got better, whatever it is. And comparison really is that thief of joy. You could have such a fantastic day and then look at Instagram or whatever and find someone else who's had a better day than you. But up until that moment, you felt fantastic.
I love the fact that you talk about America like that, because I love the fact that they're willing to ask the under the skin questions and the people answer them, and they showcase a truth and they do celebrate all the little victories. And I definitely adhere to that in my life and with my 3 daughters and also around the barber's chair. For some people, when you listen to their real true stories of turmoil, when they've come back from that, it's just simply them getting out of bed on time. Celebrate that, build on that, and owning your own story, owning your own space. So you're promoting this type of attitude every time you go out. And just so you do know, this is why you're on my show, because I'm celebrating you, mate.
Well, I'm very grateful, and I think it's a difficult thing for people to accept as well. I feel if someone says, "Oh, I love your shirt, you look really great," you go, "Oh, it's only Primark, it's only cost £2," or do you know what I mean? You instantly put yourself down. I think that's something that's really difficult to try and get out of.
Totally agree, man. Just being comfortable in your own skin. Let's get back onto those moments you've gone into some of your peers, you've shown your artwork, and naturally, barbers, hairdressers, people in that service industry, it's a hard living, partying lifestyle. It can hurt you, but what was it like going through that, sort of trying to service yourself and steer clear of some of the ailments, or did you fall by the side and have moments of pure ecstasy?
Well, I was quite innocent. So I started in the hair and beauty industry, and I started working at Tony & Guy, and I got all my friends went to uni apart from me. So I ended up going out with, it was me, a couple of guys, and then 18 girls that I worked with. And I ended up going out with them all the time and just partying. And there was never an issue. No matter who was the manager, I always became head assistant because I thought, I've got to be at work. I've got to do my job and try and be reliable as possible. But, I think the worst thing is when I was more recently traveling and working, because you're constantly traveling, you're exhausted, different time zones. You get there and people want to take you out for food. They want to take you out to get drunk. They want to take you to, they probably don't really want to be there. They've just been told they've got to entertain you. They probably want to be home with their family. And you're thinking, oh, I'm really knackered, actually. I'd quite like to just go to bed, but we've got to go to this dinner or and actually, Joe, that was harder for me. That was more exhausting recently, and you get into this sort of routine of drinking, eating, moving about, late nights, getting up, long days, and then fly back home again. Then you're exhausted with your family for a couple of days and you've got to go off again. And that was worse for me. I didn't enjoy that as much as I do now. I think finding what I've done now with Lions Barber Collective, and that sort of has a real sense of purpose. It's a real, that's my journey, and if I can use hair as a medium to do that, that's where I want to continue on down that route. And being at home with family and stuff is just a whole different, that's where I want to be. Back in the day, I was in bands for a long time. So I was doing hair. Hair was like my job. I loved it. I enjoyed it. But my dream was to be in a band and be a signed band. So that was kind of my thing. And that kind of materialized in the way of barbering, I suppose, traveling the world, being on stage. So I suppose it's a similar kind of thing. Different place, different town, different, you go to a convention center in LA, and then you go to a convention center in Chicago, and you go to Southern International. It's mostly a lot of it's the same people. It's just a different convention center. And it's just like, you don't actually see the city,
Yeah, you've lived the rock and roll lifestyle with a pair of scissors and a pair of clippers instead of a guitar and a microphone.
Pretty much. It has been great fun. I've loved it. I love all the opportunities I've had. My biggest thing now, if I can use things like the Lions as a platform to give other people opportunity, that's my favorite thing to do. So, we give opportunities to be at the shows, Sound International, or whatever. And I don't need to be on cutting hair at Sound International on stage. I don't need to be doing that. People don't need to see me. Have seen me loads of times. Who can we get? Who have our volunteers? Who wants to do that? Let's get them on stage. I'll be there. I'll talk them through. I'll compare it or MC, whatever you want, and guide them through it and give them that opportunity to do that themselves. And perhaps something comes from that. And that's what I want to do now. I want to be that one that gives, if I can make those opportunities happen.
I suppose you've sat there at Tony and Guy, you've been inspired by that style of artistic work, you've then blended that into barbering, and that really is the biggest change, with the fades and the artwork that goes on. Within the industry, you mentioned in the Lions Barber Collective, obviously you are a really well-known barber and a lot of people would know that, but there is a massive audience of people that simply don't know what that is. So I think that's, for me, one of the biggest and most useful innovations in an industry that that's so noteworthy. Can you just tell me about the Lions Barber Collective as a charity?
So as a charity, the aim is to create safe, non-clinical, non-judgmental spaces where people feel comfortable to talk about their mental health, and then have them signpost to help and support that's available. We have a vision of a world free from suicide, and we do this through a couple of things, really. So one of the things is awareness. We raise awareness through things like being on podcasts, other media platforms, campaigns. We do a lot of pop-up barbershops. So we go to spaces like sporting events, festivals, wherever there's people, workplaces, and set up and give away free haircuts. And then when they're in the chair, we use that as a medium to talk about and have great conversations around mental health. And also we so often team up with other charities in that area to kind of mug those people with information, give them all the information that they need about what's available for them. And the other thing we did is we educate. So I developed a training system called Barber Talk. It's now been turned into Hair and Beauty Talk, and also Here to Talk as well, which is a non-industry specific version. I got the idea from doing other training that was very, very in-depth, mental health training, a couple of days, very heavy, very full on, and very much around diagnosing people. So this is bipolar, this is what it looks like, this is what the traits are, etc., and going through lots of different types of mental health. And I wanted to do something that was relevant to the hair and beauty industry, accessible, usable, and learnable in a way that we learn, as opposed to this very academic, formal 2 days of full on. So I broke it down, working alongside Dr. Peter Aitken, into 4 pillars, which is recognise the signs that people may be going through something, not necessarily that they've got clinical mental health problems. 2, asking good questions that enable someone to be able to open up and have the conversation. 3, listen with empathy and without judgment. And then finally, help that person find the help they need. So it's a simple 4-step program that is taught over about 4 hours and gives them the skills to keep that person safe, but also keep themselves safe in the situation. You know, when I lost my friend, I asked if I'd asked him if he was suicidal, I wouldn't have known what to do. But by the end of this training, asking somebody about their mental health, you should feel in a confident, comfortable place that you will be able to keep them safe and yourself safe. And that's the idea behind that.
It is a fantastic, audible piece of technology. I've listened to you on other podcasts, and I'm a barber as well, so I totally get it. We build up that trust, that relationship, and you've got that opportunity to listen, empathise. You become, one of your favourite terms is a poor man's therapist. Again, any barber or hairdresser will have heard that terminology, and it isn't derogatory because it's a different type of therapy. It's the non-professional one. But I think sometimes for that little grey area in the middle, it's so important to have that opportunity to just download, what's going on.
Yeah, 100%. The training is for life generally, really. I think it's something that the hair and beauty industry, we learn about physical health and safety. We learn about psoriasis, head lice, blah, blah, blah. But we don't learn about mental health. And I've been cutting hair 20 years, come across the psoriasis not a handful of times, but you're dealing with people's mental health every single day. It's not just these diagnosable terms like the depressions and PTSD. It's the loss and we have people in our chair every day who have got a new job, lost a job, got a new girlfriend, lost their girlfriend, got married, got divorced. The ups and downs of people in our chair, we listen to them, we're there for them. And 72% of people who take their life have had no contact with mental health services in the 12 months before they die, but they've probably had a haircut. And the haircut is accessible. The hair and beauty industry is accessible to everybody. I mean, I'm here in Torquay. I can see 2 barbers from my window. They're everywhere. They're on every single high street. They're accessible to everyone, whether you pay £6 for a haircut or £60 for a haircut. You can go and do that. And it is something that's non-clinical, non-judgmental. Men aren't reaching the doctors. They're not reaching the professional help. Perhaps if you take the training or as a barber or a hairdresser, we can bridge that gap and connect the communities that we serve to the resources that are available. I think, it's really important. I mean, there is a free version of the training that you can take as a taster on the website, the Barber Talk Lite. Take 15, 20 minutes. I mean, that enough. I've had people message me on Instagram and say that they took that training and it gave them the ability to ask somebody if they were suicidal and save their life. So it's worthwhile, even if you just do that. Getting a message from somebody to say that they've helped someone because of the training that I've done, it's just priceless. And we're developing the training. We've actually got some things in the pipeline, working with a couple of companies. So there's a company that's going to be able to take the training down under in a digital format, and also working with some big brands about doing this. From my point of view, look, I don't think the barbers and hairdressers should have to pay for it. I think that it should be part of their skill set anyway. And I think the fact that we've missed that in our education system, it isn't their fault. So working with one, maybe 2 very big brands, global brands, to be able to hopefully fund it so that barbers and hairdressers get trained. And then also working with VTCT, the awarding body, to turn it into an actual qualification, which will be available to be taught in colleges and schools, and not just hairdressers and barbers, but hopefully teach the next generation of these skills. That's long-lasting real change. That's what it is.
Hey there, it's Howie. Just interrupting really briefly, I've got a quick favour to ask. We don't run ads on the Pod Barber, but if you're finding this podcast helpful, or if you know someone who might benefit from listening to it, please take just 10 seconds to share this episode by tapping on those 3 little dots on your podcast player. From there, you can text or email a link to the show and spread the word of what we're trying to do here. That'd be great. Mick and I really appreciate your help. Okay, back to the show.
That's what it requires, isn't it? Let's face it, just the reality of if you have an issue, you phone up the doctors or you go in. When you're sitting behind a chair and you speak to some of these people and they're like, I've got to wait 6 to 8 weeks. I've got to wait for my physio. I've got to wait for this. They're going to just put me on this, a 10-minute appointment. It's just a no-brainer to upskill for free these providers, isn't it? It should be part of the program of education. And the sooner that happens, the better. Yeah, it's just about speed now, isn't it? Speed to getting it done.
Yeah, and we're working really quite quickly actually with VTCT. We're looking at getting this out there beginning of 2022. I don't think it's a difficult sell to get this into the colleges and students. And I can remember being young and having these conversations with older clients thinking, I don't know what to say here. I don't know what to do. I don't know. And we try and put it right. We try and fix and solve their solutions because that's what we do as a hairdresser or barber. We fix or solve. They come in with bad hair. We make them leave looking brilliant. But actually, when it comes to the mental health side of things, it's not about trying to fix or solve or tell them what to do. It's actually about going, I feel comfortable just to listen to them and not try and interject and not try and find a solution for them. Let them find their own solution, empower themselves by realizing that they know what they should be doing. Really, they just haven't had the opportunity to do this because everywhere they go, people are telling them what to do. And it's not linear with what their ideals are. So, yeah, I think just simple things like that and encouraging them and telling them and educating them to be comfortable in those silences and be comfortable in that situation, but also giving them the skills and the tools should there become a moment of crisis. For example, if I can do that here with South Devon College, they're the only college in the Torbay area that teach hair and barbering. If we do that for the next 20 years, pretty much the entire hair industry in Torquay, painting, bricks, and will all have those skills. I'd love to see what the impact of that would be on the community in 20 years' time.
I love the fact that you have that longevity of vision. And if we can sort of get into younger people, at a certain age where they start to really develop their character, you can't give them the wisdom of lived experience. But what you can do is give them the skills to better project themselves and to help others around them. And in that in itself has such a benefit long-term for themselves and their surrounding community. There's a ripple effect of positivity. I just think it's something, you said about English, British people not celebrating. It's something worth celebrating, the fact that we're even able to be at this stage and have this conversation and know that there are ears that want to listen to it.
Yeah, definitely. Like you just said there, I think it's really important. I've been involved in mental health for about 6 years now, and I know I'm fully engulfed in it and encapsulating it completely. So I see the things progressing further, and it has come a long way. And I think you see it everywhere. I think it's really important to continue these really genuine, open conversations and ambassadors. But I also think we've got to a point where we're telling everyone to talk. But we need to move on to the next stage, which is how do you respond? How do you listen? Because in telling everybody to talk and open up is quite dangerous. If you open up to the wrong person and they shut you down, even if they're not intentionally doing it, I think that's the problem, is that someone opens up to us. You see it all the time, especially when blokes open up and talk about these things. Everyone in the room gets really uncomfortable, doesn't know what to say, and shuts it down with things like, you'll be all right, mate, or let's go for another pint, or let's go do, and they shut it down very quickly because they're scared. Or they say, when I went through this is what I did, to make it about them, because that distracts from what the other person is going to stop saying what they're saying, and I'm comfortable with my situation because I've been through it, so I'm going to tell you about me. And actually what we really need to do is move on to the next stage, just teach people how to respond, thank them for sharing with you, and then let them talk, give them that platform, and try not to be judgmental, how difficult it is, because it's ingrained in us to flight and flight and all the rest of it. So yeah, but just try not to be judgmental and open up, let them talk about it. And also it's about, the next step is, we know about our physical health. We know what 5 a day, exercise this much time, because it's been ingrained in us and told to us for the last 50 years. But how do we look after our mental health? Does anyone really know that? And if you're listening to this now, you can go and Google the 5 steps to wellbeing and have a look at them. And it's very simple things that we can actually put into our lives. And the important thing is not to do what someone else says, do what feels right for you, but create your own sort of version of those 5 steps. If you look at the 5 steps, I think they're really, really actually heavily linked to the hair and beauty industry. And if you look at the hair and beauty industry, it's always voted up there as being one of the happiest careers, one of the happiest career paths, one of the happiest jobs, and I think it's down to this as part of it. And the 5 steps basically are the first one, I think, is connect with others. We do that all day, every day, don't we? In the barber chair, we're like meeting 10, 20 people every day. We're connecting with people constantly. The second one is be physically active. We're on our feet all day. And I think anyone who says that barbering is not an active job, after going back after lockdown, having 6 months off and then trying to blow dry and hold your hands and cut hair, it is quite active, it's physically active. Number 3 is learn new skills. We're constantly learning because we have to, because trends change, mullets are back. I remember them being around a couple of times now, but if you haven't done that before, then you've got to learn how to do a disconnection at the back. You have to learn all the time. Number 4 is give to others. We're just constantly giving. We have to be quite giving as a hairdresser or barber. We make every single client feel good, hopefully. when they leave. We're giving to them, we're giving ourselves to them, we're giving our best selves to them because we're on stage almost. And then the last one is being present. And, that's often referred to things like mindfulness, being in the moment, not worrying about the future or the past, and feeling what am I standing on? What am I walking on? What can I hear? Who am I talking to? And I found that as being something that, like I said, I only cut hair every Saturday now. And I found that as my present moment, mindfulness. I'm cutting the hair. I'm in that moment. I'm talking to that person. I'm feeling their hair. I'm feeling the clippers. I'm looking at my sectioning patterns. I'm checking the balance. I'm blow drying. I'm using the products. I can feel the product on my hand. I can, all those things. And in that moment, I'm not worrying about anything else. When I'm here at Lions HQ, I'm like, right, I've got a podcast at 1. I've got this doing here. Oh no, someone's emailed me about that. Oh, I've got a phone call about this grant application. And it's constant. There's so many things going on. And I've really found that cutting hair is my moment to be mindful and present. And that's why I think the hair and beauty industry is such a great place. And why hairdressers and barbers are always so positive, generally quite positive, happy people.
I would agree with that. I think it's great to sort of go through different emotions and to understand them. And, as you live through life, becoming a parent, losing people, it does gift you that skill to be able to look at how did I react? How did it make me feel? What can I do about it? What can I do for someone else? So you do end up with that, oh yeah, when I went through this. So you can see why people default to talking about themselves. I really feel sorry for people if they then beat themselves up about it, if they listen to this.
We all do that. We all do that. I think it's an automatic thing. It's an automatic. I think a lot of the time it's an empathy thing as well, isn't it? I can relate to you, so I'm going to tell you how I went through it. The thing is, we can't. It's something that we just do, and we're trying to be nice when we do it. No one's doing it in a horrible way. No one's trying to be mean to do it. But, I can never relate to anyone. I can relate to people, but I can never understand what anyone else has been through. And a really great example of that is the pandemic. We have all been through the pandemic. Every single one of us in this country has been through the lockdowns. It's been through. But I could never say to you that I understand how you feel about your lockdowns, because I don't. I've got no idea. I don't know what you went through. I went through, I really enjoyed a lot of it, and I actually have quite a positive outlook at it. So I could never say to you, oh, I understand. And actually your experience would be completely different to mine. So I think we just need to be mindful of that going forward. And I'm not trying to put anyone down by saying that in the past. I've said it in the past. And I can think of situations that I've been in when I was devastated, after a breakup as a teenager or whatever, and someone said, I know how you feel, because when I broke up with so-and-so, and you think, you have no idea how I feel, and they don't. Just be quiet, let that person talk and listen to them in that moment and let them get it off their chest and throw it back to them. And don't be scared of silences. If you're silent for long enough, the other person will start talking again, because we don't like silences and we feel them.
Yeah, I'm really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
My turn. Tom, at the end of the day, it's when you do start to do it, it's just instantaneous. You're like, yeah, I'm not going back. Practice makes progress. So yeah, you're going to make your mistakes, and that's all cool. But you will not go back, because you realise the space that you've created for a person to tell you. Like, even in a sense of an interview, I write down everything, but I haven't really looked at it because I'm just listening to you. I'm actually just listening to you and letting you shape the debate, because it is a showcase on how to have a chat. And this is how you do it.
Yeah, really. Look, do you know what? Something you said there, just hit home there. For me, is that creating that safe space and letting people know that you are safe is invaluable. Suicide is a needle in a haystack situation. It happens. We don't know where it's going to happen, because a lot of time people haven't spoken about it, but it happens everywhere. But if we can create these safe spaces, we can make a big difference to that, have a huge impact. If I go out for a night out here in Torquay, guarantee I'll have at least one person come up to me who I've never met before and recognise what I'm doing and who I am and what I do. And they'll ask me, you're the guy that does mental health. And then as soon as I respond with a positive, yes, I am that guy, they will then literally within 10 seconds, I've been through this. I've lost this. I lost that person. And they just open up to it. And I think, how amazing is that? Or simply, all I've done is publicly tell people it's safe to talk to me. And we can all do that. And as long as we can listen to them and let them have their time, literally everyone can do that.
It's quite simple. Obviously, the whole world of mental health is a massive topic. It's so needed. You have this £1.7 million haircut documentary on Amazon. I've watched this 3 or 4 times now. Fundamentally, sometimes you have to watch something a few times for it to really settle home. And I resonate with the story of what kicked you on, because that's the same kind of story that kicked me on to do the Pod Barber. For me, it was so important because it is so inspiring, and it is like fuel in my tank to carry on. So tell me about that documentary.
Yeah. I was speaking to a friend of mine who works for a production company down here, and he just said to me, well, look, why don't you come and have a chat with the director at our place? So I went and met her and chatted for a few things. I was just like, this sounds brilliant. She said, look, we would give you a bit of creative control. You can help produce it. You can. And I'm just like, well, that just sounds brilliant. So we can actually tell the story. We can tell the story of a life lost, him celebrated, but also about a life saved, and what we can do to make that difference, and how that life saved was impacted by one conversation that we had in his barber's chair, and how many people get their haircut every day, and how many people get their haircut that are feeling that same way, that could have that positive impact from a barber's chair, and how simple that idea was, and the journey and the things that we do and the struggles that we've had along the way. It feels like forever ago that we finished filming that now, but it's still relevant to everything that we've done. And there's some great imagery of the Barber Surgeons Hall and the partnerships that we've done and the events that we've done, and also the volunteers and the education. And I couldn't do it without everybody else that's been involved. There's no one is self-made. You always have people around you to do these things. So celebrate those ambassadors, the volunteers. A lion is the king of the jungle. Yeah, right, but he can't do anything about his pride. If he's by himself, he'd be a goner. So together we are stronger. And I think this documentary showcases that, the power of a single conversation. But if you multiply that up to all the barbers across the country, we could make an incredible difference. And I won't give away why it's called the 1.7 million haircut. That's not how much I charge for a haircut, by the way. I wish it was, but but I won't give away why it is. So if you go to Amazon Prime, that's available now on there. And actually, if you haven't got Amazon Prime, you can go and watch it and you can pay for it. And it's all the money goes back to the charity. So it's all a donation when you pay for that.
The essence of the movie, it basically is some grounding information when you've watched it. Oh man, it will really make you think about it so deeply. And I have a bit of a catchphrase: conversation is the cure. And I'm not saying that can fix you, but it can certainly open up the door.
Yeah. There's a reason why I was saying is like a problem shared is a problem halved. It really does help. We all go through stuff. And I think it's just important to go realise that, look, when I've reached this moment, I need to talk to someone, and know in those spaces where you can offload before it becomes a bigger issue. Don't worry about whinging about the kids or the wife or the work or those to your barber or even to your clients, because that helps us. We need that. We have this big sack of worries that we carry around with us. And I think especially as a barber or a hairdresser, you've got everyone else's. They offload on you. So as a barber or a hairdresser, I think it's even more important that you know when to talk and open up and offloading to somebody else and letting people know that. Because if you're a therapist, a counsellor, like a Samaritan, psychiatrist, you have to offload to other people. And they see what Samaritans do, 4-hour shifts. Psychiatrists see, 6 to 8 people max a day. We see 10 to 20 people a day, all of them giving us all their worries and concerns. And we just carry it around, get home from work, and the other half says, "You had a good day?" "Oh, God, I don't want to talk about it. I've had enough going on today. Let's just put, whatever on TV and watch that." And actually, that we need to learn as an industry that we need to be able to use these spaces. Samaritans are there for us as well. All those different lines and helps that we know about, that we signpost people to, they are there for us as well.
Such a great point to make. My partner in the Pod Barber, Harry Fiddy, and the guy's a Samaritan. He's a
Amazing.
Fantastic listener. Yeah, I celebrate him literally every single day in my shop. I love the dude. And he picked up on this point as well, saying that, what is there for, hairdressers, barbers and people? Because you walk out of there, I certainly do it sometimes, and I walk back home. I've got 3 daughters, and I might walk into World War III. And, at times they don't even ask me, "Are you all right?"
Yeah. I think if we can look after the hair and beauty industry, they can look after the nation, essentially, because they reach pretty much everybody. I have actually got a proposal which is in government. It's been in government for a little while now, been back and forth, whatever. And the idea is to try and get some funding to provide an offloading service for the hair and beauty industry, basically specifically done with volunteers. The guy who runs the building that we're in now, the Lions HQ, is actually head of Director for Education for Samaritans here in South Devon. And he's worked with me to develop a form of training so we could train hairdressers and barbers to be listeners for other hairdressers and barbers. So it's almost by the industry, for the industry. And it's something that I really want to get into place sooner rather than later. If there's anyone listening who's from a big corporate product company, global, you can help fund something like this. You can help look after those people that are buying your products and the people who they're selling them to. And I think it's the responsibility of our industry to look after the well-being of the people on the shop floors out there.
You're damn straight there, Tom. If there is a company or someone with potential power, what a great advertisement. Well, what are they offering as their products? Let's talk about, environmental, fair to the environment, all that kind of stuff, clean packaging, sustainability, not using oppressed people to make their products as cheap. But actually, what about the people that are then selling that on? And if someone can nip that in the bud, that would be like the first proper company that does zero plastic. You are going to be the most talked about, the most popular outfit there. So if you want to be that company, have a word with Tom Chapman, because you need them to approach you, don't you?
Yeah, we do. Look, we're putting stuff out all the time. The government's out there. It's not COVID related at the moment, so it's not high priority. But, at the end of the day, those people out there working behind the chairs are listening. How many conversations have you had since you've been cutting hair? If they come back, how's lockdown been for you? How's COVID been? And people that are normally upbeat and that go, I've lost my job, I've lost my mum, I've lost my wife, I've lost this, and everyone's going through a tough time. And I think, we're looking at this mental health, I won't say crisis because I don't want to sensationalize stuff, but in this pandemic world that we're living in at the moment, the barbers and hairdressers are the ones out there listening to them all. They're the ones that are getting it in the ear, and they're doing an amazing job out there on their shop floors, open-eared, listening to these people, supporting them, making them feel fantastic. We need to look after them as well. And like I said, you're looking after that small percentage of the nation will be able to, I think, make a massive difference to the nation's mental health on whatever level you look at, whether it's supporting people who are already having therapy and medication and going to counselling, or whether it's people just coming in and go, oh God, my missus is doing my head in, or my fella's doing my head in, or that support is essential, I feel. From my point of view, I don't care if Unilever want to tick some boxes. If they give us some money to make a difference, and I'm out there making the difference, and it enables us to, as an industry, look after each other. If they think that ticks a box there and they can then offload a load of cash to do it, I mean, I'd love it if they cared enough to want to do it. I think that's the ultimate, isn't it? But it's difficult. You can't do these things without money, unfortunately. But it's a constant drive forward to make things better. And I think that's what's important.
We've also gone down the route of writing books. You're an author, celebrated author.
I've probably written more books than I've read now. Yeah. So the first book, I listen to a lot of audiobooks when I'm driving now. I don't really listen to much music anymore. It's mostly audiobooks, a bit of podcasts here and there. I was listening to Key Person of Influence by Daniel Priestley. And I did English literature, and I was quite good at it. And I was sort of told by my teacher to write a book, and I did some creative writing, and I really loved it. And that was always something that I sort of aspired to do. And listening to this Key Person of Influence by Daniel Priestley, he said, look, go and write a book. He said, it's easy to do it now. You can self-publish on Amazon. 40,000 words is officially a novel. If you write 1,000 words a day in a month and a half, you've written your book. And I was like, yeah, why not? I can do that. If 1,000 words, that's nothing. I can do it. And then I had to figure out what I was going to do. And the first book was called The Barber Boom. And it was based around having the conversations that I was traveling the world, having these conversations in bars or restaurants about barbering. Like, why has it got so big all of a sudden? What products are the best? What tools are the best? Are competitions important or not? What bits of advice would you give to people starting out? And went back and forth. And there's people like Rob from Scorum and Alan Beek and Cindy from Brazil and quite a few different people in there. I interviewed them all the same questions. But some of them are platform artists. Some of them have got their own product line. Some of them have got franchises, and some of them have on Instagram all over the place, product ambassadors or whatever. So it was just, the idea was to try and collate all these different people, their opinions on barbering, where it's going, where it's come from, and also give the reader something that like that wisdom from all those different people, and actually like the new barber really to come and say, look, I'm just starting in the hair industry, and I didn't realize you could be a franchisee. You could go and work on stage. You could go, and actually there were people on there that you probably know very well, and other people in the book that you'd never have heard of, but the ones you never heard of are way more successful financially or whatever, because they've got 50 shops across the country or whatever. So it was just a bit of an eye-opener for people, and it was good for me. I wrote that book when I had no shows. I wrote it in between clients. I wrote it on trains and planes and whatever. And I self-published it. It was difficult to do because you have to edit it and you have to get a cover designed and blah, blah. It was stressful, but it was definitely worth it. And it was never done to be a million bestseller or whatever. It was more a case of going, I've written a book. If you Google me, you can see that I'm an author, and it was proof sync to myself. And that in turn led to me writing my second book, Barber Talks, which is on published. I had a publishing deal for that. It's on Trigger Press. And that's more of a memoir about the story of the Lions Barber Collective, how it started, losing Alex, helping Paul. And it was a really emotive journey. And I wrote that again whilst traveling in hotel rooms. And I can remember sitting in hotel rooms just bawling out, crying, because I was reliving things that I probably hadn't really relived or visited, because I was living such a fast-paced life. And it was actually quite a therapeutic thing to do. I suppose a bit like a journal, really. But writing that was great. And then that led to my next book, which just come out last July. Which is my children's book, The Mighty Lions and the Big Match, which is something that I'd wanted to do for a while with having children, writing a children's book, something that's fiction rather than non-fiction. That's been great fun, honestly, really, really good fun. There's some interesting things to come from that, I'm sure. And I've just finished writing my fourth book, which is being published by Wellbeing, which comes out next year. And that's based around the training. That's like a handbook style for anybody. It's going to be called How to Listen, So Men Will Talk. So that's it for now. I haven't got anything else planned yet, although I've written a couple of more kids' books, but they're just first drafts. And fingers crossed, if this one goes well, we might get another one. Who knows? It could be the next Peppa Pig, maybe.
Yeah. Basically, it sounds to me like the charity and the pen sort of are taking the lead for you.
The charity is my main driving force. The training, there's Barber Talk, Hair and Beauty Talk, and Here to Talk, really important for me. And look, I love cutting hair. Like I said to you, it's my mindful space where I go and do that every now and then. But I think that the charities really is a sense of purpose thing. And who knows what happens? Well, when the world opens up a bit more, will I go back around doing haircuts on stage in front of people in whatever? Maybe. I think I'd prefer to be on stage talking about mental health and how that still to hairdressers and barbers, but talking about how they can make a difference. And if you do this, this and this, and you can potentially save a life. And I'd rather train 3,000 people to do that than train 3,000 people to cut a mullet. So, I'm not saying it's not valuable to do that as well, because it's a skill set to them, but I think there's so many other people already doing that and better than me as well.
Yeah, I think that's really humble, man. And I agree with you. I think you've got to that point where you've been there and you've done that and it's great. It might be that you come out of the stage retirement and do a few haircuts once in a while and you might really enjoy it then. It might be enjoyable as opposed to that drag on you, but you've got a young family. You've got that sense of purpose with the Lions Barber Collective, and you've got to steer that vehicle and get that over the line to where you can then chuck the keys to someone else or other people. I always like to ask a curveball question. Sex, drugs and rock and roll, and you can pick a topic and just say what you think on any of them.
They're all great, aren't they? They all go together perfectly.
Do all of them then.
That's my youth. I was in a band. I've got Motley Crue book. The Dirt was my Bible. I read that book over and over again until it fell apart. I listened to Motley Crue. I've got Nikki Sixx tattooed on my arm. I wanted to be that. I wanted to live that style. And we did really on a very small scale. We thought we were rock stars and we had good fun and we had parties 7 days a week and what have you. And went in our little mini van and played gigs and what have you. I think that was my sort of thing as I grew up. I always had that sort of aspiration and led towards the bad boys and whenever I watched anything, the tattooed, the rock and roll, the whatever. So I sort of always aspired to be that. But I think it's that's well and truly dead and buried. I ain't got the time for any of that anymore. But they all play their part, don't they?
Of course they do. Obviously, we've talked about the Lions Barber Collective, the training, the Barber Talk. Hammer that down again. People can find all the external pieces that you've done. TED Talks.
Yeah.
I mean, that chalked up. I don't know, I've lost track, but when I looked at it, it was over 1 million views or something. It's amazing.
There's TED Talks and stuff like that. I mean, that was one of the most terrifying things I'd done. And it was good because it gave me credibility and gave me the next level to do something else. And, I think it's all just a platform. It's all just do what you love and do what you need to do to make a difference. And if that's cutting hair, then do it. And you will be making such a difference. If that's mental health work, do it. If it's zero plastic, it's recycling, it's going and walking and picking up all the crap that other people drop or whatever that may be. do what makes you feel good and keep going. And success comes, and success is relative as well. I mean, we all have our own version of success, and I think don't get caught in the trap that fame and money is a measure of success, because you'll never have enough money and you'll never have enough fame. So concentrate on the things that are around you and make a difference to those that you know in your life, and you'll be happy, I suppose.
That's a great message. Obviously, because you are famous and you're one of those people that are using that to help and encourage others. So it's the way you use those things, the way you use that platform. Tom, my mum, funnily enough, first introduced me to you because you were on Loose Women, and it was at the time I was getting into this and doing my mental health first aid training, and your mum's always right, and she said to me, "Look, Mick, you've got to listen to this guy because he's going to inspire you." And you did. Oh. I watched you on there. It made me research you further. And that's what having good, meaningful conversations is about. It's about bringing a different listenership and not just having the same soundboard. I know me and you are both in the same trade per se. You're doing loads of different things. Hopefully different audiences get to hear about what you do and what the collective does, because it is about society. It's not about barbering. It's not about hairdressing. It's about people, and it's about getting people to have a better human experience. And on that note, I will celebrate everything that you've done up until this point and hopefully invigorate you to carry on, my man. I thank you for coming on the show, and I hope you've enjoyed being here. On that note, peace, love, and power to your day, man.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
The Pod Barber is a That Media and Design production, with Mickey at the mic and Howie at the controls. If you've been affected by any of the topics in this show, you can find more helpful information on the episode's page at thepodbarber.com and search The Pod Barber on social, and let's get connected.